Good morning. Welcome to Unity of Port St. Lucie on this gorgeous Sunday. Okay, so please join us as we sing our opening song, One Light. As we get ready for our prayer for inner peace, we want to remember to honor all fathers today, grandfathers, uncles, big brothers, sons, and sometimes men in our life who were mentors for us at a time when we really needed them, like my first boss, Bart Du Bois. So we want to include them in our prayer for inner peace this morning. So if you take a deep breath in, hold it for a pause, count of 3. And as you exhale, leave your mouth open and let all the cares, worries, concerns, thoughts about anything else that's going on in your life escape with that breath leaving. Creator of all that is, I open my heart and mind this morning to the presence of God that is within me and in everyone and everything. That one power and one presence. I let God's peace fill my being. In this presence, I am peaceful, poised, confident, and strong. I relax in God's loving care and release all my cares to knowing that God is upholding me and sustaining me in all that I do. God's presence calms me, quiets the storms around me, and leads me to a place of perfect peace. As I center myself in that peaceful presence this morning, I let go of every concern and relax in the safety of God's love and in the love of those around me. I find Unity of Port St. Lucie a sanctuary of love and peace, and I am open and receptive to receive all it has to soothe my mind and soul this day. And so it is. Amen. If you would say with me our mission statement: to develop our spiritual connection with God through prayer, education, and service. And our vision: Unity of Port St. Lucie is an expanding community for personal healing and spiritual growth. Social distance, meet and greet. I say hi. Wave to everybody.
How's your distance this morning?
Now we can talk. This is a congregational song. Okay, now would you please stand and join us in our congregational song, Hold My Hand.
Hold my hand, we
Thank you, Voices from Within. And now, Jenny's not here. Would somebody like to read? I can do it, but you guys hear me all the time. Okay, oh, you were. Oh, well, good. That Monica's going to read Daily Word.
Good morning and happy Father's Day to all the dads. Where? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, where are we? Here we are. Today is Father's Day, and happy Father's Day to everybody who was fathers and mothers to their children. I give thanks for all expressions of fatherly love. My relationship with my father may have been positive and nurturing or difficult and challenging. He may have a strong presence during my childhood, or he may have been absent. We may be part of each other's lives today. We may be estranged, or we may have passed from earthly life. Whatever our circumstances, I bless my Father, and I see him enfolded in divine love. As I honor my father, I also honor all the father figures who have helped guide me along my path. Family members, teachers, neighbors, clergy, employers, and friends. I bless them as I recall all the ways, each one in a unique way, has modeled strength, guidance, and wisdom and patience. Their presence remains with me thanks to their gifts of fatherly love. I have taught you the way of wisdom. I have led you in the path of uprightness. Proverbs. Okay, and today's affirmation, I give thanks for all expressions of fatherly love.
As we get ready for meditation and to sing Surely the Presence, I want to officially welcome back our wonderful Reverend Linda Machezik. And now join us as we prepare for meditation by singing Surely the Presence. I invite you now to join me in preparing to spend some time together in the silence. We prepare by relaxing deeply. To that end, we settle deeply into the chairs that support us, allowing those chairs to do their jobs, allowing the chair to support our back, while we sit straight, tall, while we uncross our legs or our feet and place our feet squarely on the ground that is Mother Earth, placing our hands gently on our laps or our tabletop, palms up, fingers relaxed, as we become aware of the fact that we are vessels always. As we enter the silence, we acknowledge that fact, that truth. We focus on it, bring it more deeply into our awareness so that we can carry it forward into the world. With every step we take, every word we speak, every action, every thought we think,
We are one with the One. All joined together like this, no separation among us whatsoever. We relax even more deeply and begin to focus our attention on our heart space. Some call it the seat of our soul, the seat of our love, the seat of our essential nature, the place where the Christ dwells within us. We focus our attention there. We imagine that space right now in our mind's eye, and we imagine it glowing radiantly. Radiantly. We imagine the light glowing from it extending far beyond our bodies into this room, permeating the very air we breathe, this light that is us, united with the One. We imagine that light expanding now beyond the room in which we sit, outside our doors. We imagine that light spreading, circulating, surrounding the very planet on which we live, the planet we share with so many other sentient beings. We infuse that light with our love, all the love that we are, all the love that we can share in this moment. We acknowledge the healing power of that love. And in the silence, for a few moments, we direct that light and that love into the very DNA of our planet, the very DNA of every other sentient being that shares this planet with us. That light, that radiant light of love in the silence, in the silence. And then very slowly, very gently, tenderly, we begin to return our attention to the here and now, to this room, to these bodies, bringing along a sense of gratitude. Gratitude for our power to share our love in this way, to connect to the One that is our source and our substance. We are so grateful. We express our gratitude by slowly opening our eyes and singing together. Alleluia.
Hallelujah.
Now, one more time with eyes wide open and lights on, smiles on our faces. Let's sing it out. That feels good, doesn't it? Thank you, Light Keeper, for jumping up and getting the lights when I say that. I meant to thank you last week and I was remiss, so thank you, thank you. Good morning and happy Father's Day to the fathers in the room. I know that you're a father. You've already told me. Paul, are you a father? No? Yes. But you have father energy. And I happen to know that you expend that energy on behalf of a whole lot of children, yes. Right? Yes. Yeah. She has 10 children. 10. Woo! You look good. You've handled that well. And Jeff, I know that you're a father. Yes. Yeah. Yay.
One time.
One time. One is all it takes, right? Yay. So, happy Father's Day to fathers all. My talk title today is Don't Be a Role, Be a Soul. So I want to talk about roles, and then I want to talk about how we can usurp that role in our actions by being a soul. So bear with me. As part of my seminary training, I was required to spend one semester as a hospital chaplain. And of course, those of us who are in seminary training to become ministers, go through the necessary training program to become a chaplain, and then we become temporarily certified as a chaplain. That involved a lot of classwork, a lot of coursework, and a lot of close work with a mentor who was in charge of each hospital, has its head mentor, chaplain mentor, at least in the cities. And they work closely with us and go with us the first few times to make sure that we don't do any harm as newbies. Not that we would, of course, but just to make sure that we are comfortable playing the role. Let's put it that way. So when you're a hospital chaplain for one semester, at least once during that semester, you have to do an on-call weekend. And so I don't know if they've changed it now, but at that time I was sent home from the hospital for the weekend with a little beeper that I had to either wear on my on a belt or around my waistband, or at night keep close to me. It vibrated and made a sound and lit up, so it was hard to ignore. And when it did that, you had to call in. And so it was my first on-call weekend. I had 2 while I was serving. And it was in the wee hours of a Sunday morning, post-dawn, but early on a Sunday morning, because I had plans to go with some seminarians to another church that Sunday. And of course, my beeper went off, and that precluded any possibility of going to church anywhere. So I called into the hospital to the number that we were told to call. Really nervous, because this is a first, mind you. And the voice on the other end, lovely woman, said that there was a family requesting a hospital chaplain. And she noticed I was on call, so she was letting me know. And I remember stuttering a little bit and explaining that she woke me. And so I would have to shower and dress and drive. And she said, I understand. We'll be here. Do your best. Come when you can. And I remember my heart racing, truly. I remember my heart racing. You know how, your blood pressure rises, you almost feel a little feathery like I'm almost trembling. I was so nervous about this. My first ever. I know that my adrenaline was pumping. I had a heightened sense of anxiety and excitement and fear and panic all at once. And I remember after I showered and after I put on my suit, I remember I put the hospital chaplain stole around my neck, and I felt better. I felt better. That was my badge. That would make it clear to everybody from the moment I parked my car and walked in the front door what I was there for, and it would remind me what my role was. It brought with it a certain demeanor that you're supposed to have, right? After all, you're the hospital chaplain. It made me feel safe, that stole. I remember praying like crazy all the way to the hospital, praying that God had my back, that I would show up in a way that would serve this family. I remember in my mind reviewing everything I'd been taught about what to do in this situation. But I also remember the voice on the other end of the phone telling me that a young man had been shot with a seemingly fatal gunshot wound to the head. And I had no idea what that was going to look like, to be honest with you. I had no idea what I would be walking into or seeing, and so there was that as well. I had no familiarity with that kind of environment or that situation. I remember being told how to serve other people, even if their religious background was different. Serve them right where they're at. Forget about the way that Unity teaches us to pray, or the words that we're used to using in Unity. You are there to serve whomever has called you right where they're at, in whatever manner is appropriate to them. So all of those things are going through my mind. I remember making my way to the ICU and walking in. And you know, there are cubicles everywhere. This was no exception. It was very similar to the ICUs around here. So there are white curtains like this, and there's a bed in the middle of it, etc. And the nurse that ushered me in pulled the curtain back, and there stood a grieving, absolutely, I can't even describe the level of sadness in the mother and father that clung to each other while they looked at their 19-year-old boy laying in this bed, unresponsive. His head had already been wrapped in white gauze, so I was spared whatever Mom and Dad may have seen when they first arrived on the scene. He was hooked up to a breathing apparatus, and he was hooked up to monitors that were providing the only feedback that was coming from him, for which he was capable. I stood tall with my cloak around my shoulders, carrying a certain demeanor, stuffing my emotions for their sake. And I asked them if they wanted to pray. And of course they did. So I took their hands and we prayed together. Very shortly thereafter, a young doctor entered that small space to explain to them that their son was in all probability brain dead. To explain to them what that meant, and to explain to them what would happen next. And I watched their reaction, because I can only imagine those are words you never want to hear about a child, or anyone for that matter. He explained that there was one definitive test that he was compelled to do. Though he was absolutely certain this young man was brain dead, he was legally bound to do one final test. And he asked us all to leave the space, and he would let us know when we could come back. And we did. We left the ICU, I followed them, and we went out into the lobby, the waiting area. And I sat by them, and they began to make calls. They began to make calls. They only had to make a couple because those people in turn called others to let them know that their son was dying. When the doctor came out, I joined this mother and father, and we re-entered that space. And I stood there with them as he explained that this boy was absolutely, truly brain dead. And as he answered their questions, and he explained to them that after an appropriate amount of time, whatever time they needed, when they let him know or the nurse know they were ready, that this young boy would be removed from his ventilator. So they had time to say their goodbyes. And then he left. And I was left there with a mother and a father and a 19-year-old boy. The charge nurse came in and said there were friends and family already gathering out in the waiting area. Some of them already knew about the shooting and were probably already well on their way by the time that mother and father received this news. And so she charged me with the responsibility, knowing that there were only 4 people allowed around that bed in that small space at a time into the ICU. She charged me with the responsibility of ushering people in and out. So it was my job to go out, bring in 4, spend some time with them, however long they needed, take them out, bring in the next 4, and so on. And to be honest with you, I was grateful to be given something to do. I felt like I needed to do something besides hold the space and pray, and this was something for me to do. And it freed the nurses up to go on and do what they needed to do on behalf of other people. And there were many people gathering. I remember being deeply moved by the number of people that showed up to say goodbye to this young man, to support this mother and father. And so I did that, 4 at a time. And the last 4 to come in consisted of this young man's girlfriend, also home from college for the weekend. Also home from college for the weekend. The young man, by the way, against his better judgment, went with his cousin to a club in Kansas City. And as they were pulling up in their car, there was a drive-by shooting. And that's what happened. That's what happened. So this girlfriend, also home from college, and this young man's best friend and another friend, 4 of them, were the last 4, besides the parents, to come in the room. And I remember looking at their faces, these babies, and watching them. And they were extremely uncomfortable, and they didn't know really what to do, and they wanted to do something, but they didn't know what to do, and they didn't know how to handle it. And I remember looking at them and saying, you know, if there's anything you want to say to him, I'm almost certain he'll hear you. Because it's really hard to wrap yourself around the fact that someone's brain dead when their chest is moving up and down. You know, you get that. It's really difficult. And they were confused. And so one by one, they walked over and touched him and spoke to him. And I lost it. I wept with them because the sadness was palpable. The tragedy was so enormous, so immense, that I had no choice. I couldn't stuff my feelings any longer. I am a mother, after all. My role as a minister and a chaplain shifted when I allowed myself to grieve with them. The boundaries between us dissipated. I made a connection in a way that I hadn't before that moment. I was no longer Ms. Chaplain. I was still that, and I was a mother. I was a human being sharing an experience with other human beings. I no longer over-identified with that role that I played walking in. The point of my story is that it's perfectly normal for us to over-identify with roles that we play. We want to cling to the rules. We want to cling to the prescribed behavior that that role brings with us in order to feel safe and secure and confident. It's perfectly normal and it's okay. But in the book that I told you that I've been studying for a while and sharing with others, The 5 Invitations, the author Frank says this: in order to connect and truly serve, you have to slow it all down. You have to soften and be open to what is present. And I wholeheartedly agree. I get it. I get it. When I read that, I reflected back to the experience I just shared with you, and I said, of course, there it is. That's exactly right. I needed to release my roles about being a chaplain. I needed to forget the prescription for success and focus on what was. We all play roles. We all play roles. Have you ever considered how many? Well, I'm going to challenge you to do that now. I brought a prop with me, and some of you helped me figure out what to do with them. So let's see how many roles we play. And since we're visual learners, I'm going to do this. For every role that I play, I'm going to put on a different stole. That's actually crepe paper. I didn't have that many stoles. So first and foremost, I'm a woman. Well, I should say first and foremost, I'm a human being. But that's a given. So I'm going to say I'm a woman. So there's that, right? Secondly, I'm a daughter. It's going to get interesting. Someone said, why pink and blue? Are we trying to guess the sex of the baby? No, that's not it. I am a sibling. I am a sibling. I am a daughter. I am a granddaughter. I am a niece. I am an aunt. I am a parent. A mother, to be specific. I am a grandparent. I am a minister. Woo! I thought they were pretty colors, too.
My favorite.
Your favorite? Pink and blue? Yeah? I am a neighbor. I am a neighbor. I am sometimes a customer. I am sometimes a patient. I am often a teacher. Now, I couldn't think of everything, so have at it.
I am love.
Oh, I am what?
Love.
Okay, but that's a characteristic, not a role. I'm looking for roles.
Cousin.
Cousin.
Friend.
Cousin. I am a cousin.
Friend.
Friend. Oh, yes. Look at that. Now, I did say that, didn't I? Oh, shame on me. All right, so what was it? Friend and wife, and I'm out, but don't stop. What else?
Child of God.
A child of God. That's a role we play. I like that. Good answer. Ooh, I feel like a game show host. Good answer.
A dancer.
A dancer. Yes. What else? Anything else?
A mentor.
A swimmer. A what?
Mentor.
Mentor. Yes. Mentor. A confidant. Right. A musician. Wow.
Sunday speaker.
Sunday speaker, a speaker. Look at it. I know, paper's good. But see, my point is just look at how many roles we play. It's unbelievable to me when you actually stop and consider it. And every one of those roles, every one of them, comes with its own expected set of behaviors, functions, responsibilities. And every one of those roles has been defined for us by the role makers that we have observed, people in our lives, characters in movies, characters on television shows, characters in books, people in the music. Those roles have been identified. Ladies, and most of you are today, here present, ladies, all of us grew up with an understanding, for example, of what the role of wife meant, right? Depending on what generation you represent, that understanding is different. Clearly, my granddaughter's understanding of wife is different than my mother's was, for example. Think about that. I know you can relate to what I'm saying. The way those roles are played are based on what? Or they're based on the observation we made of the women in our lives who played that role. Our mothers, our grandmothers, the mothers of our girlfriends, the mothers on sitcoms, the mothers in movies. Gentlemen, those of you present, you grew up with a really clear understanding of what the role of a man was in our society based on what you observed, the behavior of other men that you watched growing up. The same could be said for any of the roles that I've mentioned, friends. That's how roles are made. That's how they're defined. And sometimes, maybe even often, we over-identify with some of those roles at any given point in time. In his book, The 5 Invitations, Frank says this: when we over-identify with a role, it defines us, confines us, and reduces our capacity for conscious choice. It sets up an expectation about how life is supposed to proceed. That means more fragmentation, more fixed positions and entrenched beliefs, and less access to our innate wisdom. See, in that hospital room, in that ICU, had I restricted myself to the behavior that was prescribed for someone who's a chaplain, I never would have touched my innate wisdom, my essential nature. And from the moment I touched my essential nature, I became part of that experience with that family. I shared their experience. It's fairly common for all of us to over-identify. I couldn't help thinking as I prepared this talk, for instance, about how many times mothers agonize over the day that all of their children ultimately leave the house and they become empty nesters. How many women I've known in my lifetime, mothers, who have had a crisis over that last child leaving because they felt like there was no reason now to get up in the morning and go through the day. They'd lost their very purpose in life somehow. And it was crushing for many of them. It's not uncommon for someone who spent a lifetime in a particular career, when they retire, to be adrift, lost at sea, because that thing they did defined them, and they no longer had that definition. Those are extreme examples of over-identification with roles, but I think you get the point. We all do it. Perfectly natural for us to do it. The important thing is for us to stop and become aware of it. Awareness is everything Unity teaches. Everything. Now that we have some understanding, hopefully, of the extent to which roles are a part of our experience, I want you to consider the truth in all of this. Truth with a capital T, because this truth is at the very heart of Unity's teachings, the very heart of it. The truth in all of this, friends, is that we are not what we do. We are not what we think. We are not what we feel. We are not what we have and what we say, not exclusively. We are so much more than that, than all of that. Ram Dass is the one that said, don't be a role, be a soul. Now I'm going to invite you to think about that with me for a moment. So how do we do that? Well, the answer is fairly simple and straightforward. Just last week, I talked about how neat it is to be able to lift up our eyes above this sensory pelting that we're experiencing right now of frightening news, bad news, scary news. We need to lift up our eyes above it. Well, this week, I'm telling you to act out, to think, to feel, to speak, not from your role as a mother, daughter, son, father, sister, caretaker, hairmaker, but from your identity as a spiritual being. Because that's the truth of us. That's the heart of Unity's teachings, is that we are first and foremost spiritual beings. We're so much more than those roles, so much more. One of the most powerful books ever written by one of Unity's most powerful teachers ever, a woman by the name of Imelda Shanklin, in a book called What Are You?, says this. She says, you are a soul that has forgotten its divine identity. A soul now struggling to remember in the midst of time and in the confusion of experience. That you are the living son or daughter of the living God. Spiritually, you are an idea in the mind of God. That idea must be given expression in you. You are the son or daughter of God, but not always have you acted the part. If you will live in as full accordance with our divine nature as your present state of preparation makes possible, you will be made aware of your true identity. Just as the victim of amnesia persists in recalling their personal identity, when you pray, read, meditate, practice spiritual truth, a flicker, then a beam, then the full light of restored consciousness will dawn, and you will know yourself. In that knowing, the human estimate in all that it values and all that it decries will be replaced by your spiritual identity. End of quote. Difficult language maybe to understand because it was written over 100 years ago. But every bit as inspiring today as it was then. Because truth has no age. It has no shelf life. We are spiritual beings, friends. We are spiritual beings playing roles. We get to redefine those roles as soon as we understand that we're spiritual beings. We have no choice. It happens automatically. All I'm asking you to do is become aware of it. We get to redefine all the roles we play the moment we acknowledge the fact that we're first spiritual beings. When we act, think, feel, or do as a spiritual being first, playing a role, we reinvent the role. We reinvent the role. when we pause before demonizing someone, when we pause to center ourselves and then act or speak accordingly, we redefine the role, the human role of us, the personal role of us. And others watch. Others watch and observe us doing that. So we provide them with a new idea of the role that we're playing, whatever it might be. Let's face it, most of our role models, yours and mine, did not discover the truth of who they really are. Most, not all. So when they played the roles that influenced us, their actions, their thoughts, their words, and their deeds were not necessarily inspired, not necessarily cast in spirituality. We have the opportunity to change that now. And we already are. We already are. Everyone in this room is of a certain age such that you've raised children or you've watched children being raised. Some of you now have raised grandchildren or observed them being raised. So you've played the role of mother, father, grandparent, aunt, uncle, neighbor, friend. You've already been changing the way that role is defined as long as, to the extent that which you've taken your truth principles along with you, that you carry them along with you, that you walk the talk, as people like to say. Others are going to notice, friends, if before we speak, before we act, we take a second or two to pause and center. Others will notice. Others will notice. And they'll remember. And they will emulate you. Because when you do that, what comes out of your mouth will be entirely different than what might have had you not done it. Our founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, referred to this movement early on as practical Christianity. What their vision was for everybody to wake up to the truth of who they are and then take that awareness out into the world. That was their vision. Lots of people have been doing that now in Unity for 100 years. And we continue. We continue. You and I continue this movement. We practice that. We teach that. We demonstrate that to the best of our ability. Maybe your grandchild or your niece or nephew or the children for whom you are responsible as a mentor will someday say, you know, the thing about my grandma was she never blurted out a response. Like when I was talking to her about something or asked her a question, she never just blurted it out. She always just would close her eyes, pause, smile, open her eyes, and then speak. Do you see? What a powerful lesson we're teaching. Every time we do that, it will be noticed. It will be remembered long after we're gone. What a legacy we get to leave as spiritual beings. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend Linda. And now, one of our favorites, build an ark.
The open waters, save your sons and daughters. kills. Tired of the men who make the laws and break them anytime they please. I'm tired of all the big lies. Where are all the good guys? Sometimes I swear I feel the way Noah did when the Lord commanded. Build an ark, head for the open water, save your sons and daughters. Build an ark, build an ark. When the storm is ended, you know the world is ended. Build an ark, build an ark, head for the open water, save your sons and daughters. Build an ark, build an ark. When the storm is ended, you know the world is ended. Build an ark.
My father and my mother, my sisters and my brothers, all the friends that I care about, and the woman that I've heard to call. I gather them together and promise them forever we'll be safe from the world around us. All we have to do is love each other.
Build an ark, head for the open water, save your sons and daughters. Build an ark, build an ark. When the storm is ended, you know the world is ended. Build an ark, build an ark, head for the open water, save your sons and daughters. Build an ark, build an ark. When the storm is ended, you know the world is ended. Build an ark. Gather them together, promise them forever we'll be safe from the world around us. All we have to do is love each other. Build an ark, head for the open water, save your sons and daughters. Build an ark, build an ark. When the storm is ended, you know the world is ended. Build an ark, build an ark. Head for the open water, save your sons and daughters. Build an ark, build an ark. When the storm is ended, you know the world is ended. Build an ark, build an ark. Head for the open water, save your sons and daughters. Build an ark, build an ark. When the storm is ended, you know the world is ended. Build an ark, build an ark. Head for the open water, save your sons and daughters. Build an ark, build an ark. When the storm is ended, you know the world is ended. Build an ark, build an ark. Head for the open water, save your sons and daughters. Build an ark, build an ark. When the storm is ended, you know the world is ended. Build an ark.
Love that song. Thank you, Voices from Within. When the storm is ended, we'll know the world is mended. This time too. So now's the time when we take out our tithes and offerings, if you haven't put them in the back already. And we hold them in our hands. And as we say our affirmation, we bless them with our love and energy. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love because I love to give. And the offering plates are in the back. right now, so you can put your money in as you leave. Our prayer chaplain today is Dinah Walker. She'll be right over there after the service if you'd like to share some affirmative prayer with her. What? Monica? Oh, sorry, it's Monica. No? It's somebody. We'll have lots of prayer. We'll have lots of prayer chaplain support. Our prayer circle is Thursdays at 11. We had 8 people there Thursday. It was so wonderful. So come join us. Make it 9, 10, 12, 14. Be wonderful. It'd be nice to have so many we had to spread out over the whole sanctuary to keep our social distance, right? That's the goal. And gentle yoga with Lana is still Tuesdays at 10. But now it's changing starting July, to look up, cheat and look here closer. Starting July 10th, it will be $10 per class, but she still is meeting on Tuesdays at 10. The First Friday Book Club this time is going to be Mike Dooley's Infinite Possibilities. It'll be Friday, July 10th at 1 o'clock. If you need a book, you can see me. I can order it for you from Amazon. They're $11.50 from Amazon. Spiritual discussion group. The next one will be July 7th at 7 p.m. here at church. That discussion's led by John Hayes. Next Sunday, Reverend Vernell will be back. I'm not sure whether she'll be live or on video, but she'll be here either way. Reverend Linda, would you bless the offering?
Can I make an announcement?
Yes, you may, of course.
Thank you. Choir, there's no choir rehearsal this week. Just want to remind you, you sang so well today that we're going to give you the week off. And we're welcoming a new choir member, Monica.
Awesome. That's great news. Yay. Look how blessed you guys are. Oh, so let's express our gratitude for the gifts that were given today and the gifts that we're receiving right now in this moment. As I close my eyes and speak on our behalf, I say, Father, Mother, God, thank you, thank you, thank you for all that we are, for all that we have, for all that we give and all that we receive. We are so blessed. We are so blessed to be served by so many, by our musical directors, by our choir, by our videographer, by our platform person, the president of the board, by prayer chaplains, by all who serve this spiritual family. Thank you for the financial gifts that were given today here in this space, and for those given online, for those yet to come in online. We are so grateful as we are committed to the financial health and stability of this spiritual community. We thank you for your support. It is abundant, and we are blessed. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Linda. I don't have to do that because she just did it. No, that's wonderful. They hear me all the time. So now if you'd stand and join us in the peace song.